Hi everyone, it's Mr. Robinson here again. Now, I don't want to overhype this, but so far, prep time has been amazing. Now, there'll be a few of you who sit there and think, oh, you know what, I don't want to revise every single day, but this is genuinely going to be the thing that makes you get the grades you want, so you have to keep on going with it. Now, you've done the first type of revision, which is look, cover, check, and that should be kind of in the bag now. This is now the second type of revision, and it's to do with flashcards. So flashcards, what do they actually look like? So what a flashcard normally looks like is, look at the information over here on the left. There's like a plant cell and there's an animal cell and there's some facts about it. A flashcard will just have, on one side it might say plant cell. Right, sorry about the handwriting again. And on the other side it will have the diagram and it will have all the kind of key bits about it written on it. And the idea for flashcards is you will look at that side which says plant cell and you'll test yourself and check without looking whether you know what's on the other side. Then you'll check, and if you get anything wrong, you write down the bits you've got wrong. Okay, so now you know what flashcards are, I'm now going to explain how to make the flashcards. Now this bit is just pure gold, so stay with me on this, it's really important, right? Do not even think about making a flashcard until you know the material pretty well. Now the reason why I say this is, I had a friend called John Christie who just before his exams made like 1,000 flashcards and he was so pleased with them, like they were underlined, they were highlighted, he loved them. But the problem was, he never actually bothered learning the information before making the flashcards. So he'd sit there, flipping over these flashcards, realising that he had no idea what was on the other side and it just broke him. So I just do not want that to happen to you. So at Eastern High what we do is, we do look, cover and check for as long as you need to, until you feel like you know the stuff, and that's the moment when you try and make the flashcard. Okay, so the second question is, how much information you want to have on your flashcard. Now, different people have different opinions. Miss Myrick likes to put very little information on a flashcard and have lots of them, whereas I like to have more information and have fewer flashcards. But you're going to decide over the next year or so what works best for you, and you choose that. And thirdly, and this is quite important, and it's hard for me because as you can see my handwriting is terrible, make sure it's clear, your flashcard. It doesn't have to be underlined, it doesn't have highlights, nothing like that, but it has to be clear because you're going to be using these flashcards later on, just before the exam. It's a really good final way of just making sure you know all the information. And if it's not clear, you'll flip over the card and you won't quite remember what you put. So make sure it's clear. But on the other hand of that, I do not want to see in prep time kids spending hours after hours making fancy flashcards, because honestly, that'd be a big waste of time. Right, so this section is how to use flashcards in and out of prep. So imagine you're in prep time. Right, the key thing here is you've got to remember that you're in prep time, you're not allowed to speak. So normally when you use flashcards, you might find a friend and try and test each other on the flashcards. In prep time, you can't do that because it's in complete silence and it wouldn't be fair on everyone else. So imagine you've got your card that says animal cell. Right. So what I'd do now is I'd get a piece of paper and I'd try and remember everything about the animal cell. I'd try and remember the diagram. I'd try and remember all the kind of key bits to it. So now all you do is you get your animal cell, you flip it over, your card, and you try and see on the other side, have you got it right? So is your diagram exactly the same? Have you got all the key attributes? And any bits you've missed out, so if you missed a couple of bits out, you go back and you write them on a sheet. And this sheet is going to be all the bits that say, all the bits you've missed out. So when you're revising later on, you're thinking, well, I know everything apart from everything on this sheet here. And even more excitingly, you could use these flashcards outside of prep time. And what I'm thinking here is, we are going to let you take your flashcards home with you. Just please, please, please don't lose them, because it'd be gutting if you lost them. But there are two ways I can see myself using flashcards. So just before, like say the day before a big test, you might go to your friend and say, can you test me on my flashcards and I'll test you on yours. And you might think, well, I'm not going to do that. But the people who do that will get much better grades in their test and they'll be really happy about that. So I'm saying this is a really good, just before the exam thing to do. Secondly, now I was watching X Factor the other night, because I like X Factor, and it was during the adverts, and I went on my phone and I watched some stupid thing on Facebook. I thought, I've completely wasted those 5 minutes. What you could do instead is have your flashcards sat by you on the sofa, and as the break happens, you could say to someone in the room, it could be your mum, it could be anyone, you could say, can you test me on my flashcards? And you just test 5 or 6 just before the advert finishes, and you'll feel really good. And you keep on doing that little bit of revision here and there, again and again and again, and you'll start seeing the difference.